Hello and welcome to this review for Starworld by Harry Harrison, which is the final Harry Harrison in the trilogy of To the Stars, which I have completed, enjoying it thoroughly. So the first one is Homeworld, and there is a spoiler-free review to this one. This is a series that was written, or at least published by Harrison in 1980 and 1981. It follows our hero and protagonist, Jan Kulozic, as he starts in a dystopian scenario, unaware of just how dystopian it is until he encounters some rebels. He is then, at the end of that one, shipped off planet to Wheel World, where he does a whole heap of stuff, and it's all pretty good. And then we come to Starworld. If you like Harry Harrison's Harry Harrison's non-humorous science fiction, and especially his dystopias, I think you will like To the Stars. It is very dystopian, very subtle. It's got a lot of good action, especially this last one. This one has got... It's very fast-paced, and it's got a fair bit of battle scenes in it that are quite well done. If you think you might like this series, my suggestion is click pause now, go back to the spoiler-free review of the first book, and come back after you've read the series. So this is not the first time I've read this series. I first read them as a teenager, probably not too long after they were actually published. I've loved them, I've owned them and reread them many times. It's been a long time since the last rereading because I didn't have them for a few years and I was hesitant. You know how you had a book when you were a teenager, you really loved it, you come back to it ages later and you approach it with a bit of caution. You're a bit worried that it's not as good as you remember because it's always shone in your memory as a great book. Well, Harrison doesn't disappoint with To the Stars. They are as good as I remember them. I noticed different things in them this time to what I noticed when I was, say, 13. But still great books. Okay, onward into strongly spoilery territory. So, Starworld starts with the rebel planets. At the end of Wheel World, we learned that all the settled planets have rebelled against Earth's dominance, and that's the reason why the ships were late to pick up the grain on Wheel World, but they've finally arrived, only they're the rebel ships and they're taking the grain to the rebel planets, not to Earth. So this book starts on a slant with a whole heap of rebel ships. They're not battleships. They've been conscripted from a whole heap of tugs and interplanetary ships. They've been patched together and they're delivering to Earth a virus that will mean that the food, the breadbasket of Earth, which is apparently Australia, which is funny, is going to be contaminated by a virus. It sets the scene for a book full of missions and fighting, because this is a death-defying mission and there is indeed death. It's a great introduction, and it also lets one know a little bit about what Earth has been doing out on the settled planets. Not good stuff. Okay, then after that very short introduction, we are back essentially on Halvmork at the conclusion of the second book. Jan is bidding farewell to his wife there. He is going to go with the grain ships out to the rebel planets. His goal is to forge a better future for Halvmork than it's had before. Up until then, they've virtually been economic slaves. They make no money. They just slave to produce the food for the rest of the galaxy. He wants to see a better future. And as the person who knows Earth and Halvmork and politics best, he is saying that he's going to go with them and fund this better future for their children. So he takes off on these ships, but there has been a betrayal back on Earth, and these ships have been are being intercepted by Earth ships to bring all that food to Earth rather than going to the starving rebel planets. And on Earth, Jan manages to escape the slaughter which envelops almost everyone else on board the ship, and becomes a fugitive for a while before contacting the Resistance. This is a really good part as well. In the first book, in Homeworld, Jan's an Englishman, and basically we see England and a little bit of a couple of other countries. But in Starworld, Harrison develops the narrative of what he thinks this future America might look like. So we've got different characters, different accents, and though it's also a dystopian controlled state, a slightly different one. It's really interesting the way he does that. I enjoyed it. Anyway, Jan is contacted by the Resistance there, who start getting him away from all the forces that are trying to capture him. But he is eventually captured by the security forces in this world, and once again comes face to face with his nemesis and also his brother-in-law, Thurgood Smith. Now, Thurgood Smith claims that he is now working to produce a revolution. He doesn't want the state of the world to remain as it is. He wants to aid the revolution and assist in the birth of a new society. Jan Kulizik believes not a word of it, trusts him not at all, but he also doesn't see what else he can do. At this point, he's been captured. Security will execute him as soon as look at him. His only chance is to follow the orders that are given to him by Smitty, and he does that. With these orders, he is provided with money, other identities. He's sent off to the Middle East, first to Egypt, then to Israel, to deliver Thurgood Smith's notion of how various forces on Earth should collaborate to overthrow the united governments. Now, he ends up in Israel because Kulizik has had connection with the Israeli resistance fighters in England and the Middle East in the first book. Also, in this scenario of To the Stars, Harrison has postulated a future where Israel and the various Arab nations have made a sort of confederacy, which may well be the last democratic state on Earth, at least as far as Jan knows. But Jan's been reared in these very constricted circumstances. He had realised in the first book that everything he's been told about this world is essentially a lie, and he doesn't know the world as a whole. I think having Jan as the protagonist in this way is very good, because we get a sense of the blindness that a totalitarian regime can produce for the individual within it. Anyway, so he goes to the Middle East in one scenario, he goes to Israel, he delivers Smitty's instructions on how to take down the Mojave Desert star installation, which is the only way that rebels can actually get a foothold on Earth. And from there, Jan travels to somewhere else, I've forgotten by now, and he gets catapulted into space as a technician, which he is. And through this really exciting starship into space narrative, Jan manages to make contact with the rebel forces that are approaching Earth's atmosphere, and delivers to them also the instructions that Thurgood Smith has developed as a way to capture the Mojave base. Without this, they probably aren't going to do well. They've already captured the manufacturing, as Jan meets the fleet, they capture the manufacturing satellites that are just within Earth's orbits, or just outside it. And essentially they have to gain control of Earth if their rebellion is to succeed. And these plans that he's delivered to them might well ensure that. From here on, we get a lot of space battles and a lot of people talking about the space battles and what can and can't work in this scenario. One thing I love that Harrison does that not that many other science fiction writers had done when I was first reading this is Jan isn't the competent man. He's not the guy who knows everything and he's explaining everyone to everyone else. No, he's essentially this pawn in the paws of Thurgood Smith and the universe as a whole, perhaps, He's got goals that he wants to achieve. He wants a rebellion. He wants the totalitarian regimes to end. But he doesn't have control, and he's not a know-it-all. So we have a series of commanders or ballistics experts who tell him how space battles work and how the means in which they're going to try and ensure that their very diminished rebel fleet survives. I love the way Harrison does this. And I'm pretty sure there's a little Star Wars credit tribute. That's it, tribute. At one stage, because you've got the ballistic expert explaining why certain things don't work in space, and what he does is take Jan into a room and show him an archival film from far, far in the past. It is, by the way, 2065 at the beginning of this narrative, so it's probably quite a few years later, maybe 2070. So this archival bit, I'm not sure, I'm not word perfect on the early film, but I think it's describing a space battle that forced in the first Star Wars movie, which forced Leia, C-3PO and R2-D2 onto the planet of Tatooine. Not sure, but I think that's it. I like to believe it's it. Okay, so as Jan is with the outer space forces and they have various battles and maneuvering, and it's all really exciting and really vibrant and a lot of fun. Meanwhile, the Israeli forces are pretending to be someone else to get into the Mojave battle. Again, it's a great story, really enjoyed it. And you have the ground forces penetrating the space base at the same time as you've got the space forces coming in, and you've got to love a good space battle. Sure, space opera, but there's a fair amount of science in there as well, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. No spoiler to say that the good guys win and the two forces come together and they take over the base. Today the base, tomorrow the whole of mankind. Now, this book ends on a happy ending note. It's soft and I've got to say a little bit sentimental and a little bit mushy even. I like a happy ending as much as the next person. I think it's good that Harrison ended on a happy ending. It's a satisfying ending in a little way. But this is a total spoiler if you haven't read it yet, so maybe go away for this one. 3, 2, 1. At the end, Jan has his brother-in-law Thurgood Smith in the sights of a gun, and he's about to shoot him, and he doesn't. Teenage me really wanted him to shoot Thurgood Smith. I thought that was a good idea. I thought that was a good plan. I saw no reason why Jan would fall back. As an adult, I can see you want your hero to be a good guy. A good guy doesn't shoot a captive in the head. However, a small part of me thinks that, you know what, the future of this brave new world might be a better place if Thurgood Smith is not the first elected president of it. So, small element of dissatisfaction there. Then you've got that kind of sentimental, mushy ending. I can't decide if I like it more than I dislike it. It's kind of perfect for the series. It's kind of not what you'd see in a modern space opera. I think a modern space opera would be more sophisticated. Anyway, no criticism with it really. I would give all this series 5 out of 5 stars for writing, for enjoyment, for consistency. I think they're great. I love the fact that I enjoyed them as much as an adult as I did when I was a kid. I really do love Harrison's non-humorous writing more than his humorous writing. All the humorous science fiction out there that I actually do enjoy, and there's not that much of it. Probably among my favourites are a couple of Harrison novels, but I still do prefer his non-humour. However, even here, in completely non-humorous book, he managed to get a little bit of a joke in. To my American viewers, don't take this personally, but it is cute when he says, Before dawn, the temperature might drop down to the 38 degrees, what the Americans, still valiantly resisting the onslaught of the metric system, insisted on calling 90. It might even be a few degrees cooler, but no more. Then the sun came up. We're in the Mojave Desert at that point. I like Harrison's cute little dig at the Celsius versus Fahrenheit debate. And I'll leave you with that. And Harry Harrison, it's a great trilogy. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope that if you're watching this video, you too have read and enjoyed it, or maybe read and not enjoyed it. But in any case, read good books, possibly Harry Harrison. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.